officiating mistakes and doing the simple measurement on a first down, gave Phillips an extra set of downs. Last play of the game, the Phillips quarterback throws the ball toward the end zone in a desperation attempt. The ball gets batted up in the air by 5'7" Sid Grantham. It goes up into the air, into the end zone, and my recollection is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, my recollection is the Phillips receiver was laying flat on his back in the end zone and caught the ball. Ball game over. And that brought the decade of dominance to an end right there. Iowa Park, that's another team we probably want to agree we don't want to talk about a whole lot. Iowa Park was just so darn good. When we faced them in 1969, we were just kind of in the way as they marched to a state championship. Dalhart scored more points against Iowa Park against any other team that year. Iowa Park won the state championship. The following year, they also made it to the state championship and ended up tying the team they played that year, so they were co-champions in 1970. So anyway, it was a terrific run of 10 years, of which everybody in this room who was associated with that should be commended. I want, though, before I leave here, to say a special thing about Stephen Young and the special things they've got going on in Dalhart right now. You need to realize and understand, if you don't, Dalhart competes in their district and all the other teams in Class 3A in the state that are regularly 2 times or 3 times larger than they are in student body. So for them to have had the success they have had competing against such larger schools is nothing short of incredible as far as I'm concerned. So that's it, 10 years in a flash. I was going to try to get this certified for some advanced placement credit through Amarillo College. You get 3 hours on this, so there you go.
Thanks, Joel. Joel Hug, my lifelong friend. You know, Joel's an attorney. They bill by the hour. And, you know, they don't know how long 5 minutes is, but that's all right. All right. Tell you what, we are blessed to have some of the greatest coaches in the history of high school football, Texas or otherwise. And we're going to start with the man who really got it, who established Dalhart, the football power that it is. He was born in Sundown, quarterbacked at Midwestern University in Wichita Falls as a military veteran. Then he took an assistant coaching job of all places, working for Chesty, Walker, and Phillips. Well, that got him ready because L.G. Henderson, the Dalhart coach at the time, convinced him to come to Dalhart. 2 years, an assistant, and then Superintendent Dean Skiles promoted him to head coach. 4-5-1 the first year. Jack McCleskey got hurt. He's the guy that had all those rushes. But he hired a staff, a phenomenal staff. He coached up the Wolves, and we've talked about from 61 to 63, Dalhart had 3 district titles, state semifinals, go on and on. Just an incredible run. He left Dalhart after that season, went to Monahans, took Monahans to the state semifinals. He went to Hobbs, New Mexico. Hobbs is a basketball school. Hobbs, New Mexico won the state championship under this man. He went to Port Arthur for a year, then went to Port Neches Groves, 4A football, highest level of Texas football at that time. And with Richie, this guy right here, quarterback, in 1965, they won the 4A state title, 20-10, over a school called Odessa Permian. What an achievement, what a career. In 1977, his son Randy, the second son, Richie's brother, was the running back. They went all the way to the state finals. They lost to Plano, another perennial powerhouse, 15-13. That game was played at Texas Stadium. There were almost 50,000 fans. That remains, even today, they play the state finals now at Cowboy Stadium. That remains the most heavily attended high school football game in the history of the universe. And this man was the head coach of the team that played in the state finals. Later, he coached at Round Rock and then became an athletic director in Pasadena, Texas, in the Houston area. Throughout his career, he didn't have future NFL stars. He took the kids he was given, and he made a team out of them. Doug Etheridge.
I can assure you, I know what 5 minutes is. And you don't know how good it is to see you kids. And I mean that with all sincerity. I had a great time coaching, but God blessed me to put me in Dalhart at the time that I came here. And I really believe that. With as good a group of kids as we had at Dalhart, that worked hard, that did the things you asked them, and you ask them again and again, and they kept doing those things over and over. And somebody fussed at me today about why we ran the plays all the time so much, over and over. Why do you do that? Well, so that you can learn. You know, if you're a slow learner, you have to do things over and over again. Let me tell you, the guys at Dalhart had great attitudes. They did what we asked them to do. They really didn't fuss. They worked hard in the summers. I always felt like that the kids at Dalhart, you kids, kind of set a pattern for what I had to go on the rest of my coaching career. And I really believe that most of the time, I had kids just like y'all that worked hard, that listened to your coaches, did what we asked you to do over and over again without fussing, and you learned and you were smart and you did what we wanted you to do. If the ones that we had after I left here in other schools, I kind of used you as a guideline to go by what they did and what my guys at other schools did. And I really believe that you helped me a great deal. And for that, I want to thank you very much, because you were smart and you did play good. And sometimes we have, they say, well, you have to teach them. Sometimes you can teach some things. And I was telling one of the players today, we had a ball game over, I think for a district championship, and they ran a play against us where the quarterback pitched the ball to someone, ran this way. The quarterback came on out this way, like, you leave the quarterbacks alone when he doesn't have the ball. And they threw the pass and completed it the first time. The second time they tried it, one of our cornerbacks, named Jeff Colquitt, stepped in front of that pass and took it all the way. And so that ended that business. Now, I brought Jeff's name up today because Jeff didn't have any scoring plays. Philip and John and Ronnie had all the scoring plays. Jeff was a blocker. And he didn't have any scoring plays, so Jeff had to make plays on his own, kind of like against Crane, when he did that little deal. So anyway, I could mention a lot of guys' names, and I can't, if I start mentioning names and I don't mention all of you, some of you are going to get mentioned later on in some other things. I really do appreciate what you did for me. My family does. I had a good career, and I really attribute a great deal of it to you kids here. Right. And I coached a girls' football powder puff game too here one time. And I asked one of the girls, and I'm going to tell you, the girls did everything I asked them to do. They put their helmet in there, they tackled, and they really took it up. Now, one team had to win. My team lost that day, but I'm going to tell you, they really tackled good, and they did a great job. How many girls were on that powder puff team that we coached here? How many? There you are. They did. once again, we'll talk some more at the round table, I guess, but thank you very much, you kids.
Okay, we're going to really celebrate. Joel, if you get this, we're going to try. Now, Joel set the stage. The video is really crappy, but you got to look close. This is Dalhart, Denver City 61. We're going to start with the kickoff return where Bird makes the tackle, comes all the way across the field. We're not going to show just a little bit here. All right, let's see if it works. Jones Stadium. Remember, Dalhart, Denver City. We're playing 26th game in a row winner, Denver City, defending state champions. This is the second half kickoff. The Wolves trail 8-7. That's Pat Hubbard of Denver City. And from the opposite side of the field, he's going through there. Here comes, is it Chester Bird? And there he comes, there he comes. He could have gone all the way. Nope, he's tackled right there. 17-yard line. Denver City now runs 7 plays. Took them 3 downs to get a first down. 7 plays into the line. Then on 4th down, they're stopped. The Wolves, the Mad Hatters as they were known, stopped them. Now, first play into the line. Dalhart gets the ball on the 3-yard line, trailing 8-7. And there he goes. Tommy Ledbetter, look in the bottom of your screen. Look, he slips a tackle. The last man's got a shot. Ledbetter into the end zone. Look at the cheerleaders if you can. Dalhart goes on to an incredible 29-8 victory. The biggest victory in Dalhart High School football history right there, ladies and gentlemen. What a game. What a game. All right. Before I call him up there, if we could hit the lights real quick, I want to tell you about Tommy. He gained 1,500 yards that year. He went to play for the Texas Longhorns. I mean, you don't just show up. I mean, that's an incredible to be recruited by Texas. Played on the freshman team. Actually, you couldn't play varsity as a freshman. Then he actually picked up the javelin. He went out for the track team and was a javelin thrower. Just found it interesting, fascinating. He's a great athlete. Decided that Austin, the Longhorns, just too big, so he transferred to UNM, finished up his playing career for the Lobos with Louis Allred, another great Dalhart Wolf from the past. Injuries slowed him down at UNM, but ever since he's had a phenomenal professional career. 37 years he worked in sales for 3M. He lives in Carlsbad, California. He's got a beautiful family, and he also is the possessor of the greatest play, as we've designated the Dalhart, the Decade of Dominance Committee of 2. But we all agree. Oh, wait. You get your plaque tonight, sorry. But you get to come on up now, Tommy Ledbetter. Tommy, you want to say something real quick? All right.
Philip Perkle told me that I could wear my shorts, my flip-flops, and a shirt because I was from California. And I did. And he was supposed to wear a pinstripe suit. All I want to say is Kevin's been calling me for, it's been several months. And the first time he called, there was a question, is this Tommy Ledbetter? And I said, it's Tom Ledbetter. He said, no, I'm looking for Tommy Ledbetter from Dalhart, Texas. And that was beginning of a long conversation and many conversations that Kevin and I had. And he's the reason why I'm here, because he told me so much about what was happening. And I couldn't believe it. And I said, Kevin, and he was 10, 15 years younger than me. I said, did you play football? He said, well, a little bit. And I said, what are you doing this for? And I couldn't believe it. And thanks to Kevin and Joel for doing this, because this is amazing. When I drove up today, and this is kind of how funny it is, thinking about 50 years ago that this all happened, I drove up, and I know we never think we're getting any older, and I looked over and I said, there's some of the parents of some of our kids over here. And then I realized it was us. But I'd like to tell Kevin, thank you very much for all of his communications with me. I tried to tell him that play was really a team play. Thanks to Coach Etheridge and Coach Rickenberg and all the players on that team. I remembered it as not being touched at all by anyone. That I ran through a big hole, and all I did was run, and that was the easiest thing you could do. And everybody else was 100% fulfilling the requirement that they were supposed to do. And that was why we did it over and over, Coach, because we knew someday it was going to be the perfect play at the perfect time, and that was it. Thanks.
Thank you, Tommy. Thank you.
Wow, they don't get any. I mean, Wolves, who's your hero? Is it Tom Brady or something? Tommy Ledbetter is my hero. Wow. And I had to get Tommy, had to get Doug. I mean, everybody's critical, but Tommy was like, I was going to go to California and drag him back here if he wasn't coming. So, now on this 63 team, now we're flashing forward to 63 because Tommy was 2 years ahead of these guys. Dalhart had an unbelievable staff under Coach Etheridge. On that staff, we've already talked about Greg Etheridge. And Greg Etheridge, Texas High School Hall of Fame coach, went on to extraordinary career. And we have his widow, Jackie, here today. And Jackie, you're getting one of the special edition Dalhart Wolves statues from the 63 season. I'll tell you, because I have spoken to every person that's come back personally, and many times, like Tommy Ledbetter, many times over, I don't know that there's ever been anybody that's a football coach that was more beloved than Greg Sherwood. Just incredible. That Victor Chandler from the 63 team is here. He said he remembered everybody's name. He attended every reunion, and he coached in Spearman and Plainview and Liberal. He knew he was just an unbelievable person. Now, also on that 63 team was Artie Stewart. Artie had deep ties to Dalhart. Artie was also the basketball coach, and in that era, if you didn't play football, they really didn't want you to do any other sports, but he turned Dalhart into a decent basketball team. And they were not even almost allowed to play basketball or any other sports in that era. But he did it. And Artie, Coach Young's wife, Dionne Young, who unfortunately could not be here today, and Jeff Lloyd. Artie helped raise 5 Lloyd children whose parents were tragically killed in a vehicle accident in Kansas. They came back to Dalhart, and Artie helped raise them. It's an incredible story. Also on that coaching staff was Jack Probst. He's kind of the forgotten guy. Jack Probst left here, was here a very short time. He was recognized by the Texas legislature for an incredible career in West Texas. He was a superintendent of schools, golf coach, had an unbelievable career. And teaming with Coach Etheridge, these were the coaches. 5 guys did everything, and that included the junior high. And there was one other coach on this team that maybe because he left the state, his exploits were not as well known in the state of Texas, but went on to an incredible career. While Doug Etheridge was going south to Monahans, this individual was going north to Dodge City. And there was no get out of Dodge in him because he's still there. 8 years he served as head coach of the Red Demons. They had 5 league championships, 2 undefeated seasons. They had no Kansas playoffs until 1969. And then in 1970, Dodge City won state in Kansas. It's the only time in history that Dodge City has ever won state in football. And it was this man over here that coached him. That's how incredible this coaching staff was in this tree of what was these 63 players got to enjoy. He became an AD in Dodge City until his retirement. He grew up in Douglas, Oklahoma, where they had no football team. He was a basketball star. He went to junior college and then to Northwestern Oklahoma State, where he was a third-team All-American. He was actually drafted into the NFL by the Chicago Cardinals, but decided to go into coaching. He went to Okeen, Oklahoma, a little town, came to Dalhart because he knew they knew how to play football, and he knew he could learn how to coach in Texas under Doug Etheridge. And then he stayed in Dodge City, went to Dodge City and stayed there. His wife, Dottie, is here. They have 3 children, 8 grandchildren, and even some great-grandchildren. I've lost count, but let's hear it and give it up for J.C. Rickenberg.
Thank you. I want to thank Kevin and Philip and Joel for the great time we've had today, and maybe a little bit later also. Kevin told me today, he said, make sure that you don't go very long. And it hadn't been just today, it was every time I've talked to him. What I would like to do, I came to Dalhart to learn how to coach football. And that's exactly what I got from this man right here, Doug Etheridge. I took the program that we had here into Dodge City and won big time with it. I think he has told everything that I was going to say. But he did prepare me for the job, Doug Etheridge. We had a great bunch of kids here when I came to Dalhart, and all of them were hardworking, coachable type of a kid. And I really appreciated my time that I had in Dalhart, and I hated to leave because we really enjoyed the town. Thank you.
Get back up here, JC. You got at least 3 more minutes. Good job. Thank you. Wonderful. Okay, it's time to meet 63 Wolves. We're going to line them up here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about each player. We've talked about the coaches, and unable to attend. Well, at first, too ill to attend is Roy Weatherford, who lives in Dalhart. Wayne Porter, I got it very briefly. He's a Dalhartan of many years. Wayne Porter, it was so hard I had this roster, wherever it went, with a 63 team. It didn't have what was called the practice players, because the practice players didn't play on the team. In that era, they only had so many seats on the bus, and only so many, and there were players that were so dedicated, they just practiced. And they would suit out for home games, but the playoff games were on the road. And Wayne Porter was a practice player, and that's why he wasn't on the roster. And he was that dedicated, and he was a tremendous inspiration to all of his teammates. He then went down to Texas A&M, became the Aggie yell leader. That's probably more prominent than the Texas governor. And he goes to the football coach, Gene Stallings, at that time. And he said, can I practice with the team, Texas A&M? And he says, oh no, you're too scrawny, you're too little, we can't do it. No way. He went back to Dalhart over the summer. He worked out, he ran. He showed back up in August in the College Station heat and says, please let me practice. Coach said, if you run a mile under 6 minutes, you can practice with us. He stepped out there on the track, ran a 5:43 mile, and practiced with the Texas A&M Aggies, who won the Southwest Conference and beat Bear Bryant and Alabama in the Cotton Bowl. Wow. I mean, so you wonder why these stories, what you learn, what you hear, it's this town, it's unbelievable. And we're all here today to celebrate it. So when you see Wayne cannot be here, figures, missed the bus. No, his mother is having her 95th birthday. The family's gathering all in the Metroplex. He has to be there in Dallas tonight. So that's why he's not here. Okay, and also the unable to attend, Tommy McCarty lives in Indiana, Jim Shipley, California, Lynn Schultz in Rhode Island. I can assure you guys, I hounded these people. I hounded them. I called them. I emailed. One guy, Max Locke, I couldn't find. He's gone under a rock. I sent registered letters. I know he's in Wyoming or South Dakota somewhere, but I never did talk to him, but I found the rest of them. Jim Cockwitz in Washington State. David Moore wanted to come. He's corresponded with me a lot, but he couldn't make it. He's in Houston. Deward Strong, he's a cattle rancher. He told me he's got a herd of cattle coming in. They couldn't come today. And then, I love the managers. The managers are great. You got to have managers for a football team. I had 3 of the 4 that said they were coming, and they all couldn't make it, one reason or another, but they are David Bryant, Hank McIntosh, Pat Gogley, and Curtis Beasley. Those guys were all integral part of the 63 team. So, lining them up, 63 returning Wolves. We're going to start with, and it's kind of funny. All these guys are Billy and Tommy and Bobby. That's how they're listed. That's how we put it on the statue. So I know him as Ricky Allender. Ricky Allender, which is Richard Allender, 152-pound senior guard, lives in Houston. He climbed to the top of the corporate ladder, CEO and president of FARA. He's now president of a yacht company in Houston. And he told me a great story. He said that all the guys in the 63 team as freshmen, Coach Estrich was taken over as head coach. He gathered them all like in a locker room before the season started, in the locker room. And these guys were all young, scrawny guys. He goes, "This is a team that's going to win state." And they all looked around and go, "What? State? Dalhart?" And he got them believing. So let's give a nice hand for Richard Allen. Next we have Philip Binge, 142-pound junior halfback at that time. He was a football coach and teacher in Clayton for 30 years. He now test drives tires. Drives all over the country. He lives in San Angelo with his wife Babs, and Babs is very well connected and keeps track of everybody from her class and her era. So let's hear from Philip Binge. Now we have Richard Bohr, but of course then he's Ricky. Ricky's a 144-pound junior center. Now I'm presuming all these guys are there. May be 1 or 2 that somehow didn't make it, but come on up. I didn't get to meet everybody before. Remember, all these guys, I knew them by name. Joel and I really, my brother Craig, who's here, was in that era, but I didn't know these guys. I just know their names, but I knew everybody's name. And anyway, Ricky was in the Air Force, a contractor, an art gallery co-owner, lives in Clear Lake Shores, Houston. He is a luxury car and yacht broker as well. 2 guys out of the first 3 I introduced are in the yacht business. How about that? He said, after living in Phoenix, LA, and Houston, it's easy to realize the value of growing up in a small town like Dalhart. Ricky Bohr. Bobby Brown, are you here? Bobby Brown. Come on up, Bobby. 137-pound junior center. He worked on ranches in Montana and Wyoming. He now lives in Amarillo. Welcome back, Bobby Brown. Thank you, Bobby. Now here's a guy that's been a godsend in Dalhart, Victor Chandler, 165-pound senior guard. Victor spent a career in the Air Force, 20 years, worked 21 years for the Dalhart Highway Department, now known as TxDOT. He has been so helpful in this process, and I could not have done it without him. Next is Dwight Clifton. Did the legendary Dwight Clifton make it back? Yes, sir. The kicker We don't know if it's right, if it's left, or down the middle. Now, that was the year before, but Dwight was a senior, 205-pound kicker and end on the team, and he was an ag teacher in Dalhart, Cumbie, and Cleburne, and living still in Cleburne, right, Dwight? Yeah. All right. Welcome back to Dalhart. And now we have, as Coach Etheridge listed him, the aforementioned Jeff Colquitt. Jeff Colquitt, a dentist in Dalhart for a number of years. Now he's a dentist in Dallas. And it's funny, Coach Etheridge, you know, all these thousands and thousands of plays he's watched, and you know how Jeff had to create his own way. In the old, the people who were there might remember this. It was against Crane. Crane had a short punt. All the cranes, as they're called, gathered around this, and the ball is a dead duck. It's dying. And out of nowhere, Jeff Colquitt comes swooping in like a stork stealing an egg or something, and runs it into the end zone. He went right past all those guys. It was one of the greatest plays in Dalhart High School history. Jeff Colquitt. Jeff, his brother Jim, as I said, was unable to be here, but his other brother, the twin, John Colquitt. John, come on up. 148-pound senior halfback. Boy, John looks like he could suit out today, doesn't he, huh? Gained 1,300 yards, sixth most in the state. He's been a businessman all his career and decided, all right, I'll go out and work at the airport. He works for TSA in Amarillo, so 5 minutes. 5 minutes. So you don't want me to talk more than 5 minutes about your exploits. Okay. And I tell you, I want to say a special shout out to the mother of 3 players on this team, Margaret Colquitt. Lovely lady. My brother Craig, if everybody coming back, he says, I've got to say hi to Margaret. I love that woman. She's like a second mother. Okay, next up is Bobby Cunningham, 130-pound junior quarterback. Come on up, Bobby. Now, among the great mysteries of 1963, you have a playoff roster with guys that apparently were not necessarily suited up or ready to play. I guess you created a roster of players that were available to you. Bobby was a junior at that time, a quarterback, was a great passer, and unfortunately Doug Etheridge and the crew, they weren't much into the passing game, but the next year he showed his exploits as a passer. And his father, of course, was the legendary Dalhart physician, Dr. John Cunningham. He's a pharmacist, owns his own pharmacy in Lubbock, Bobby Cunningham. And, of course, the brother of Bill Cunningham, Jimmy Hyso. Jimmy, you out there? One of my favorite towns. Jimmy's from Trinidad, Colorado. 148-pound senior end, worked for the railroad with Ronnie McClendon. These guys have been semi-attached at the hip all these years because Ronnie also retired to Trinidad. And Jimmy, so great to have you back in Dalhart. Another Dalhart native, Lynn Hariff. Lynn Hariff, 164-pound senior guard. Lynn did a lot of things in his career. He worked out in California in a water district as an underwater diver and did valve maintenance. And come on up here, Lynn, good seeing you. Then he returned to Dalhart. He's been a rancher. He's even a Civil Air Patrol pilot. So thank you so much. Great to see you, Lynn Hariff. Jimmy Kelly. Jimmy Kelly. Did Jimmy make it? Jimmy is here. Okay. Among all the guys, this one ranks right up there, second or third hardest to find. But we found him. Now, Jimmy is out in, Logan, New Mexico? Right? He's been a rancher. He was a 157-pound junior guard. And Jimmy, we are very, very thankful that you're back with us. Good to see you. Now we have Chester Latham. He's another one of these guys that made a difference. 145-pound senior, Dalhart native. Chester was, again, I had a playoff roster to work with, and Chester was injured almost the whole season. So only late in the game did I find out he was on the team. I did the best I could. I'm sorry, Chester. You're fully and absolutely on the team. You actually played in the Rockwall game late in the year. He's been a real estate broker in Phoenix. He's now back in Dalhart farming. And it's great to see you, Chester Latham. Now the quarterback, Ronnie McClendon, 169 pounds, senior. Ronnie Mack, as they call him. As a sophomore and a junior, he played all positions. The quarterback that had been with these guys through junior high, a guy named Larry Atkinson, who was a great quarterback, he moved. His dad got transferred. And the coaches called on Ronnie Mack before the senior season, said, would you be our quarterback? And not only was he a great quarterback, he led the Wolves to the greatest season in Dalhart history. He's been a conductor with Rock Island, worked for the railroad, retired in Trinidad, Colorado. Ronnie McClendon. Burton McElroy, you've already met. Burton, come on up. I will say this story about Burton. When Greg Sherwood was honored and admitted into the Texas High School Hall of Fame, of course, he thanked his wife and all those in attendance that had won, but he pointed out one person, a room, a lot more people than this, and he pointed to Burton McElroy, this 132-pound down lineman,